Pacers win. They beat the Raptors right here on the floor of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Tony East here on the floor with Forbes and Locked On Pacers here to tell you about the game that just happened. Sorry for the long hiatus from this channel. Got married, went on my honeymoon, and then was so exhausted Monday I skipped this. I will do a video about their 3 games prior to this tomorrow, I suppose, and I'll get back to fever videos then. But now that I've wasted 30 seconds of Derek Kramer's waving in the background, I could talk about Pacers Raptors to get you guys going here. Really interesting game because it was not a pretty one for the Pacers, right? They did win by 20. This game will be remembered fondly as a big win, but I don't think they feel like they played great. They had one player who played great, certainly, in Tyrese Haliburton. We'll talk about him, but much of the first half, this game was close-ish. You know, Raptors led a few times. Pacers lead, I think, was as high as like 7 or 8, and you know, it felt like they could win this very easily with some better shot making, but this game was, hanging in the balance for a while. Raptors had it, I believe, within 7, even early in the fourth quarter, right? It was not as comfortable as the final scoreline suggests, and the Pacers got in their own way in this one, right? They had 19 turnovers, 9 of them in the first quarter of the game, and a 10th one immediately to kick off that second quarter. So 10 turnovers in about 12 and a half minutes to start this one. They were lucky that the Raptors were also turning it over a lot. The Raptors had 18 turnovers themselves, and the Raptors couldn't make a 3 to save their lives. They made 6 the entire game. Otherwise, this one could have really run away from the Pacers. It felt like to me that was the turning point. The Pacers had a timeout early in the second quarter, and it was kind of a wake-up call of Rick Carlisle telling his team, get it together on defense. He took a timeout 23 seconds into that second quarter after a Thomas Bryant turnover and an Orlando Robinson offensive rebound tip dunk. And they were really good on defense after that. Jakob Poeltl hit a shot not too long after that timeout with 10:58 to go in the second quarter. Raptors did not hit another shot until the 6:48 mark of the quarter. And the Pacers weren't playing that much better on offense. Their lead was only 1 when that shot went in. It was a Grady Dick 3. But then they still struggled to really get off the ground offensively, did the Raptors. And the Pacers were generating decent, not good, but decent shots for a lot of that stretch. So it felt like to me for this game, if the Pacers finally found some footing with their shooting and continued their defensive, work, that they would eventually break this game open. And they did have a shooting explosion. They ended up 15 of 36 from deep, but that is a misleading way to put it because all of it was 2 players. Aaron Nesmith made 2 threes, so credit to him. But at halftime, the Pacers, not named Myles Turner and Tyrese Haliburton, were 0 of 11 from deep, right? Finally, they got 3 more from other players, but those 2, Haliburton and Turner, were everything for the Pacers in this game. Tyrese Haliburton was sensational. He made 7 threes of his 9 attempts in this game. He's been fantastic since the All-Star break. And Myles Turner, equally great in this game, 5 for 5 from deep. Equally great as a shooter. Haliburton exceeded him in many other ways. 10 boards for Myles Turner as well. So Turner was great all night. Jakob Poeltl, as good as he is defensively, not really a stretch out against a big man shooter kind of defender. Turner took advantage of that in a great way. He's been shooting well since the break. He was a plus 24. As was Haliburton. So those 2 shooting, when it came alive, and finally Nesmith and Thomas Bryant mixed in some threes in the second half, the Pacers really started to take off. And once they got their turnovers under control, they really, really started to take off. The Raptors, again, surged in the early fourth quarter, made it interesting against a very odd Pacers bench group, dictated by injuries and foul trouble. But that was all the Pacers needed, was 2 exceptional shooters to beat the Raptors. The Raptors did not play well, and the Pacers deserve credit for that. They forced 18 turnovers. They did defend pretty well at the rim. The Raptors had a tough time getting quality looks from 3. They only took 27 in general, but they didn't play particularly great, and those 2 really took advantage of it. I already went through Turner's game. I thought he defended pretty well with his 2 blocks, 10 boards, and his 5 threes, obviously. I mean, that's just such a special kind of player, right? Especially in a game like this against a very physical Raptors team. They give a lot of effort, but that's not their game. They're not going to be able to contain a guy like Turner, but Haliburton was sensational. I mean, he won this game for the Pacers. Maybe only the second or third time all year that he has truly carried the Pacers to a win, right? No one else on the Pacers even hit 20 points in this game. Haliburton, over 30, 33. He had 12 in the first quarter, all on threes. I mean, the Pacers were dead in the water in the first half of this game. They would have been down 10-plus in the second quarter if Haliburton wasn't playing the way he was. And he kept it up the whole night. For those of you who really keep up with the Pacers, don't know what this means, but a skipping game for Haliburton, which means he was feeling really good about the way he was playing and feeling good about, just his general mentality. He skipped after hitting a 3, I believe, in the third quarter of this game, ends up with 7. That's more than the Raptors made as a team. He also went 5 for 6 on 2s inside the arc. He was very crafty and clever with his handle on his way to the rim. And he added, 11 assists and 1 turnover to that tally. I mean, he just controlled everything in this game. The best two Raptors scorers combined had 34 points, one more than Haliburton. The best two setup men on the Raptors combined had 11 assists. That equals Haliburton, right? He was basically the offensive impact of two Toronto players in this game, and their best two. He was absolutely sensational. He's been on a tear since the All-Star break. It was fun to ask him about that after the game. He went to Mexico, right? And he hasn't had time off in ages, right? Between World Cup obligations before 2 seasons ago. Last season was very long. The Olympics, recovery from injuries. Yeah, that was big for him. He talked about watching The Wire and chilling with his girlfriend on the beach. It's just very refreshing, and you can see that he's playing with some joy and playing very well. Obviously makes it easy to see that he's playing with joy, but he looks great. And the Pacers needed it 3-1 on this homestand, and he absolutely carried them today because truly not a lot went well for the Pacers besides Turner and Haliburton. Not to say anyone was like atrociously bad in this game. If anyone would get close to that category, it was Andrew Nembhard. They need him to step up with TJ McConnell out. He's their backup point guard, right? He runs the second unit. Andrew Nembhard made all of his 2-point shots, but 0 for 4 on threes, missed half his free throws, 3 assists, 6 turnovers, and 5 fouls in this game. 7 points on 7 shots. Really rough night. His defense is always at worst solid, right? Emmanuel Quickley was just okay with Nembhard on him in this one, but very pedestrian Nembhard game. It looks like he needs a night off, man. He had some sluggish ear moments in this game. Siakam's stat line, Pascal Siakam's, ends up being 15 points and 8 rebounds on 50% shooting. It took him a while to get going. A lot of that came in the fourth quarter. Aaron Nesmith was quite good, I thought, with his 12 points and his 2 threes, as was Ben Shepherd. Those two guys did a great job defending RJ Barrett, who went 5 for 15 in this game. He killed the Pacers all season, so I thought those two were standouts outside of those two stars for the Pacers. But Haliburton and Turner were really the show, and everybody else kind of fell in line. Not a great night from Obi Toppin, who missed 6 shots. Thomas Bryant, it looks like he went 3 for 4, but 2 of those were complete garbage time post-ups, right? He ended up with 3 turnovers and kind of came alive later. Ray J. Dennis had to fill in for a few moments because of Nembhard's foul trouble. Those minutes didn't look particularly great. That was his first rotation minutes ever in the NBA, right? So a lot of clunkiness for the Pacers with the turnovers, with the 18 fouls in this one, with the poor shooting from everybody except for 2 players, but those 2 shot well enough to get it done. The Raptors were shorthanded without Scotty Barnes, who is currently walking off the floor in front of me. They did not shoot well themselves. They had a bunch of turnovers. They were on a back-to-back. A lot went the Pacers' way in that way, and so despite a not great performance from the Pacers, they got it done. They win by 20. They avoid getting swept by Toronto this season. Stay in 4th in the East before heading to Miami for a road game on Friday, which we'll talk about on this channel, and you can hear more about this Raptors game on the Locked On Pacers podcast. I'll have that out tomorrow. Pacers 3-1 on this homestand. They needed that coming out of the break. They feel good. They look very good for a playoff spot. What seed? We'll see. It will require them to keep playing well as the surging Pistons and Bucks are right on the tail of much more on Locked On Pacers. Stories coming in Forbes to close out this week. Stay with me. Thanks for watching.